Join me as I dive into the chaos that Hurricane Helene brought to voters in uncertain July and see if I can uncover how everything changed in this crucial election. As Hurricane Helene tore through western North Carolina, leaving behind a fleet of trees, washed out bridges, and flooded homes, the residents of small rural communities like Elos found themselves grappling with survival rather than politics. With the presidential race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in its final stretch, many voters in this battleground state are more focused on clearing debris, finding missing loved ones, and rebuilding their lives. The immediate challenge facing residents of western North Carolina is the overwhelming destruction caused by Hurricane Helene. Entire communities are lost without power, clean water, or reliable access to essential supplies. Roads and bridges are washed away, isolating families and cutting off critical resources. While the 2024 presidential election looms large, the pressing issue for many is survival, finding shelter, food, and support in the aftermath of the storm. This sense of urgency is heightened by the logistical difficulties of disaster relief in remote, mountainous regions, which further complicate the recovery process. Aid efforts struggle to reach those in need, leaving many to fend for themselves. In this desperate situation, the focus has shifted from political debates to rebuilding homes, restoring infrastructure, and supporting the countless people who lost everything in the storm's wake. The scale of the destruction is almost too much to comprehend. Communities that were once thriving are now barely accessible, and the few remaining roads are filled with debris and wreckage. It's a daunting task, but one that must be undertaken if these communities are to recover. In the days following Hurricane Helene's landfall, the community response in western North Carolina quickly took precedence over the usual political discussions. People from all walks of life, volunteers, local officials, and first responders, stepped up to fill the gaps left by the widespread damage. Neighbors who were once divided by political views found themselves united in the shared task of recovery, whether it was handing out water, clearing debris, or housing displaced families. At the same time, the role of government aid became a central issue, with some praising the quick mobilization of resources and others criticizing the speed or adequacy of the response. FEMA, local authorities, and even political candidates, including Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, made visits to the region, seeking to address the destruction. For some, these efforts bolstered their confidence in government leadership, while others remained frustrated by the logistical delays in reaching the most isolated communities. As federal and state agencies worked to restore infrastructure, local organizations and grassroots efforts became lifelines for affected families. Places like Skate World and Appalachian State University turned into makeshift distribution centers and shelters, where volunteers coordinated efforts to meet immediate needs. Despite the hardship, the community's resilience shone through as residents focused on helping each other survive the crisis, rather than being consumed by the broader political tensions surrounding the election. The key moment came when the community's resilience and unity were put to the ultimate test. As volunteers tirelessly worked at distribution centers and homes, the reality of the storm's destruction became even more apparent. One particularly pivotal scene unfolded at Appalachian State University's Homes Convocation Center, where displaced families gathered in search of shelter and supplies. As Nancy Crawford, a local volunteer, struggled to keep up with the growing number of people in need, the emotional toll of the crisis began to weigh heavily on everyone. At that moment, Brad Farrington, who had just picked up supplies for a friend in Elos, stepped forward, gathering the volunteers around him. "We're all in this together," he said, his voice carrying through the large room. "It doesn't matter who you voted for or what you believe in right now. What matters is that we're here for each other." The crowd, a mix of locals and out-of-towners, Republicans and Democrats, was united by something greater than political divisions. As people listened to Farrington's words, there was a palpable shift, a collective understanding that survival and recovery depend on mutual aid, not political allegiance. It was in this moment of clarity that the community realized their strength wasn't tied to any leader or political party, but to their ability to come together as neighbors. This emotional high point crystallized the sense that, despite the ongoing election and its polarizing effects, there are times when politics must be set aside for the greater good. The storm forced people to reevaluate their priorities, and in doing so, they found a sense of unity and purpose that transcended party lines. In the wake of Hurricane Helene, the communities of western North Carolina discovered a powerful truth: when faced with overwhelming disaster, political divisions fade, and the need for human connection and support takes center stage. While the presidential race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris continued to unfold, the storm forced many to focus on survival rather than ideology. Neighbors stepped up to help each other, and volunteers worked tirelessly to provide supplies and assistance, demonstrating that the strength of a community lies in its people, not in political affiliations. The key moment at Appalachian State University's shelter, where a simple call for unity brought people together, underscored the resilience of these communities. As bridges were rebuilt and homes restored, residents learned that in times of crisis, the true hope comes from within, the compassion and solidarity shared among neighbors. While the elections were neighbors, the lessons learned in the aftermath of Helene will resonate into the knowledge of past, survival, recovery, and rebuilding. Our efforts that transcend politics, and they are made possible by the strength of the human spirit. In the face of adversity, the people of Western North Carolina showed that communities can come together to overcome even the most daunting challenges. As we continue to navigate a world where natural disasters and political divisions can easily overwhelm us, let Helene's aftermath serve as a reminder of the power of unity, compassion, and action. Whether it's volunteering, donating, or simply checking in on a neighbor, each of us has the ability to make a difference in the lives of those affected by crisis.